And there we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back to the Control Film broadcast. We're coming at you live and alive from sunny Lisbon. Can you believe it? We are live. We are alive. We're back at it again for some more live streaming. I'm also just noticing the camera is not ideal. That works. Yeah, welcome guys. Welcome back. We're back. And we're back in a big way. My name is Finn. I do commentary. I do live streaming. I talk about all kinds of things to do with politics, news, things that are happening, things that are going on, things that you should probably know about. And, on this broadcast, we really like to spend time on the news stories that ought to be known, but that the mainstream media decides that doesn't fit the narrative that we're trying to put out. So on this broadcast, we do talk about it because if it involves people that are, exploited, people that are oppressed, we want to make space for that. We want to make sure that we have an understanding about it because especially, a lot of people are hurting right now financially, are struggling. And so we talk about that. But before we get to all of that, let me talk to you a little bit about me, myself, and I. Like, what's been going on in my life. Things have been going fine. When's the last time I streamed? Saturday. And so, what have I done? Actually, so I've been doing my little rescheduling, okay? Because, truth be told, I was going through it. Like, I wanted to do more clips uploading. I wasn't able to do it. I wanted to sleep better. I wasn't able to do it. I wanted to have a more consistent exercise schedule. I wasn't able to do it. Of course, it wasn't that horrible, right? I was still doing my thing. It was still fine. But there's a couple things I wanted to tweak. And so I've been working on it. And I feel like now it's probably like the first full week. So too early to call, but it's going good so far. I think with the schedule I have now, I think one of the benefits will be that I'm more on top of things. So I don't feel as stressed when it comes to this live stream. Because right now I might be high energy as fuck. Of course, for you guys. You better appreciate it. Okay? No, I might be really up and tuned up, But when it comes to like Wednesday afternoon, a couple hours before stream, a couple minutes before stream, I'm like, oh shit, this is gonna suck. Oh god, what am I doing? It's gonna be horrible. I'm gonna not have anything to say. And then I gotta be like, stop! Shut the fuck up. That is not true. And here we are. So yeah, I want to make sure that I don't feel that like, I feel like, as a volleyball player, I've played a lot of volleyball in my life, a decade and a half. But, I played a lot of matches, and I feel like before the match, you always get a little bit of pre-match excitement, pre-match anxiety. Now, I feel like I love volleyball so much that my body was like, even if we get like a little bit anxious, that's just because we're happy as fuck. So, I process this differently. So I feel like I want to get to that space with this. Like, I care a lot about what I'm streaming about. I care a lot about talking about these things. But I don't want to get to a point where I'm, like, anxious and it's, like, destroying me. So, I just want to make sure that I'm on top of things. Because that will help me just not feel so dang anxious if I do want to start streaming. But, alas. Yeah. What are you doing with your fat little butt? Oh, yeah, and today I got a little Temu order that came in. I was ordering... What the hell? Why is it sticky? Oh, probably spilled some juice over there. But so today my little Temu order came as well. I ordered some parts for my Robo Vacuum. But also very specifically, I'm trying to figure out a way. I don't know if I've talked about this before. I have 2 cats. That I've talked about for sure. But I also have a bike. And my cats fucked up my bike. They were like scratching the bike tires. And I think for now, the only solution will be to keep the bike inside of the house. But yeah, I gotta figure something out because I don't want the bike tires to get fucked up again. So I'm gonna try to figure out a way to protect the bike tires properly, and then we can go from there. What else was I gonna say? But so I'm working on it. Today I bought a bike cover, and I think I will try to buy like material that is like to protect couches or something like that, and I will make like a two protecting or like a surface that can protect the tires. You guys with me? You get what I mean? I think I'll be good. I think that'll be a real good idea, innit? Anyway, so we're working on it. We're working on it. Also, what do you guys think about the fit today? It's a little. I got this one in a thrift shop at some point. I think it's super nice. Like the sleeves are really short, but I think it's nice. I can just like put it up a little, and it's like, like that. Also, damn, look at my forearms. Wait, why were they kind of giving? I mean, now you can't see it, but damn. But anyway, because I realized I was editing my clips and I was like, God damn it, I always wear the same shit on Wednesday. And I mean, I have a laundry machine, so it's all good. But I was like, I gotta spruce it up a bit for this stream. I gotta wear something different, something fun. So here we are. What else was I gonna say? Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's pretty much my life up until from the last Saturday until now. Let's see. What else is there to say for now? I think that is it. What do I have coming up? Yeah, no, so I hope that with the new schedule that I have, I'll just be able to, organize things better, plan better. Because guys, I really want to do some cool stuff on this stream. I wanna have some fun. Because most of the time we're talking about a lot of serious shit, and I get that people also need to have a little bit of fun. People are coming to this platform to be entertained first and foremost. So. I gotta start being a little bit more entertaining. You get my drift. But one step at a time. One step at a time. But yeah, I think we'll just work on what can be entertaining. I'll figure some stuff out, and yeah, and maybe some IRL stuff like I mentioned before. So we'll get to it. We'll get to it. And now onto the stream. Also today I'm actually pretty nicely on time. We love to see it. We love to see it. Bia, you're sitting there with your pretty little butt, with your pretty little face. Come, honey. Oh, look who wants to say hi. Well, you know what it is, Bia. It's time to say hi to the stream. Oh, you got a little eye poker. Oh, pretty girl. Pretty girl. Pretty girl. Let's clean her eye booger. Honey, what's that? Aw, got a little tear in your eye. It's okay, honey. Muito bem, Bia. Alright, she's gonna chill out over here with me, guys, while I dive into it with you, innit? Let me open up some of the remaining stuff. Right. Oh, I just realized I haven't organized everything. Okay, so let's chat a little bit more while I finish doing that. I open everything up, but it's not like organized. You guys can watch while I organize it. I don't mind. Have a little look-see. It's a little messy, but we'll get to it. So that's Israel Public Opinion stuff. That is Peter Magyar stuff. I think that is Spain. That one can go a little bit more over there. Actually, let's start over here. Okay, that's Spain, España, Italy. Yeah, we're going to talk about a lot of things to do with Italy. Because, I don't know, man. Meloni seems to be growing a backbone or something. Who's to say? Alright. Crazy cover. But yeah. Who would have thought? Being a Zionist, being a raging genocidal freak makes you ugly as hell. I think I could have guessed that. Okay. Yeah, and then France and the UK are really in a race for who can be the shittiest ruling class and with the shittiest possible response to the horrors that we're seeing unfold uh, in Gaza, in Lebanon. It's like the fucking things that they are setting up, the new policies that are trying to enact, is truly insane. But yeah, like I said, we'll get to all of it. That's for sure, innit? Also, guys, I don't know what's up with me, but I'm really rolling to the accents like it's nobody's business. Okay. It's more UK stuff. Okay. That is more UK. Meloni. Also UK. España. CC. More UK. That is France. Yeah, it's one of those things again that the mainstream media is truly not reporting on. It's quite sad indeed. All right. Yeah, so this is where we're at. We're going to talk about how Italy says no to Trump and Israel. Again, is Meloni growing a backbone? Is she somehow overnight become a human being with a conscience? Would be nice, but probably not. It's most likely a culmination of a bunch of different things that have happened in a short period of time. One, there was a Israeli attack, or like warning shots on like an Italian convoy. I think from the UN, but I don't remember for sure. And also just in general, the attacks on the civilians in Lebanon have prompted Italy at this point to kind of both shift away from Trump, but also specifically have a defense deal with Israel suspended. So yeah, and again, like I said, probably not because she grew conscious overnight. It's most likely because there have just been so many internal pressures, in addition to the referendum that failed, to the point where she kind of has to, give in some capacity, because otherwise there's nothing there otherwise. Let's see. And yeah, besides that, France and the UK have also been extremely trigger happy to do the opposite. Whereas Italy, the Italian leader, has had to bow a little bit to the internal pressure that was building through symbolic measures potentially, but regardless, shown a little bit of reaction to the broad public sentiment that exists right now as far as anti-Israel sentiment. The UK and France are doing practically the opposite, really. They are putting forward bills that will either target, anti-Zionist thinking, potentially. It seems to be a little bit like thought policing. And in the UK, they're specifically trying to target pro-Palestine protests. And so, yeah, that plus a bunch of other things. Of course, we're going to talk about still the current situation of quote-unquote ceasefire by the United States and Iran, or by the United States and Israel against Iran. What that means for negotiations, for the oil, what's happening with the blockade. So yeah, a bunch of stuff to get to. If we have time, we'll get to some other things about Germany and the Lufthansa strikes, and some other Spain news as well. So yeah, guys, let's just jump right into it. I would like to start maybe with the Iran crisis, and we'll just go from there. Actually, I don't know how old this video is. Let's see. 1 day ago, yeah, that's fine. Fix the audio levels.
President Trump's plan to use force, not to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but to close it to all shipping, has horrified and mystified America's erstwhile allies.
We are focusing our efforts on opening in full the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, I mean, not to immediately pause it, but I think it was last Saturday, like this last Saturday, that we watched a clip of this fella, Kid Starver, uh, say that I think he was on the phone with Donald Trump to kind of set up like a 30 plus nation uh, political and diplomatic, but also like military operation that would focus on open the Strait of Hormuz. But yeah, guys, I don't know about all that. I don't know. Like again, Starmer is really good at in public being like Trump's like Putin. Uh, Putin and Trump are horrible, whatever the fuck he says. And then behind closed door, he's like, you know, America's #1 ally. So, you know, take what he says in public with a grain of salt, because know that he will definitely be working and assisting the United States or lending UK military bases to the United States for whatever it deems, for whatever it needs.
Because of the damage it's doing to economies around the world, including our own economy, and we, the UK, will not be joining the...
Sorry to interrupt again, but when he's talking about how the damage is being done to all of these economies around the world, yeah, let's just keep watching.
blockade that the President announced.
The ongoing closure of the Strait of Hormuz is greatly damaging, and the restoration of the freedom of navigation is of paramount importance for us.
Before the ceasefire, the US bombed Karg Island, where Iran's oil is processed. President Trump's aim is to block all Iran's oil exports, whatever the cost to the world economy.
It's a move that is sort of strange and difficult to understand, in part because it seems out of step with the ceasefire, or not in the spirit of the ceasefire. A blockade is an act of war, and it's seen as such under international law. And so if the US does try to use significant force to block ships from moving, especially ships related to Iran's oil exports, that is something that I think Iran will retaliate against forcefully.
Some 800 ships are stranded, waiting for the Strait of Hormuz to open. 2 Iranian vessels, the Aurora and New Future, carrying diesel, passed through today, and 2 US warships went through at the weekend. The Americans are expected to enforce the blockade mainly from the Gulf of Oman and the Arabian Sea, east of the strait, where the USS Abraham Lincoln is currently deployed, and other warships.
It's truly fucking insane that we're just like, it is so normalized to have this like American fucking warship somewhere that is really far away from America. Like, yeah, it makes sense why they're there, of course, because of the juicy oil, but it's fucking insane. Any other country and people would understand how crazy it is. Like, imagine if China had like a warship of this caliber and all the other fucking military presence in like Mexico or in the Gulf of Mexico or something. That would, you know, that would be insane. People would accurately say that that's insane.
Positioned. But Iran could hit back at US bases, regional ports and pipelines in the UAE, Saudi Arabia and Iraq. And Iran's allies, the Houthis in Yemen, could harass shipping going through the alternative strait, the Bab al-Mandab. But as ship owners contemplated the escalating cost of insurance and stranded crews wondered when they'd get provisions, today the president doubled down.
Iran is doing absolutely no business, and we're going to keep it that way very easily. Don't forget, their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft is gone, their radar is gone, and their leaders are gone. It's a lot.
Today, Iranian TV showed what it claimed was a US warship near the strait. It's not clear when these pictures were taken. A Revolutionary Guard spokesman was quoted accusing the Americans of piracy and saying no ports in the region would be safe if the US attempted to block Iranian ports or shipping. That's a threat against America's Gulf allies.
I think the Gulf states are probably blindsided. This is completely inconsistent with what had been their core demand for bringing this conflict to a close, which was to reopen the strait on which their economies so profoundly depend.
Yeah.
The response of trying to just double up on basically the blockade that Iran had imposed seems completely antithetical to what the Gulf states had wanted.
The UAE continues to pump out propaganda videos saying nothing to see here, everything's just fine. President Trump isn't helped.
Yeah, those fucking. I mean, remember when we were watching, you know, like all of these places get bombed as well, and then they were just putting out these videos through influencers to be like, "Papote, papote." I don't want to sing it too much because my beautiful singer will get caught by the YouTube, you know, blocking thing. But yeah, like we reacted to those clips as well. Like they really, really wanna try to repair the image that, oh no guys, Dubai is safe. Come to Dubai. Come to Dubai. It's safe. We promise. Invest, please, please. And then finally they thought they were getting somewhere, and now Trump does this. Ay ay ay. Of course, I'm 100% sure they will still be allies, but yeah, that's what happens when you are allied with Trump and you know, and the United States and its endless search for dominance and complete subjugation of anyone who dares to step up against it.
Promote that version of reality.
Lindsay Hilson there. Well, oil prices snapped back above $100 a barrel in response to President Trump's plans to blockade Iranian ports. And there's been a warning that the Iran war is set to cut living standards in the UK this year. Our economics reporter Neil MacDonald is here. Neil, how have the energy markets responded to all of this?
Well, it sent a fresh jolt of pessimism through the markets, according to one analyst today, rather undercutting the optimism that was around after the announcement of the ceasefire. And if you look at the price of oil over last Friday and then today, you can see that sudden shift in sentiment rather clearly. I mean, the immediate reason is that Iran exports about 1.8 million barrels of oil, and a successful blockade would obviously stop that flowing. Most of it goes to China. I mean, 1 barrel out of every 8 that China imports comes from Iran, and if they can't get it from Iran, obviously they'll go looking for it from another country. You'd expect that to push up prices. All of that said, I mean, $100 is a lot lower than some of the peaks we've seen in recent weeks. That suggests the financial markets, at least, believe that today's escalation doesn't preclude some sort of long-term deal.
But what is the latest on how this will affect people here?
Well, we learned today from the RAC that the average prices of petrol and diesel have now gone up every day for 40 days in a row, and inevitably that's starting to hit people's pockets. Now, the Resolution Foundation...
Yeah, because of course things are always a little delayed in that regard, especially the United States being like a really far away, like geographically from this. But yeah, I mean, even I think Iran's parliamentary speaker was like, oh, you will miss the days that it was $4 to $5 at the gas pump. You'll be nostalgic for it, I think he said. So, you know, like, yeah. Hey, when it starts hitting people, then the already, you know, relatively anti-war sentiment, people's appetite for war of any kind will already also start to diminish, and people will get antsy about it. I mean, even Trump's base, even though they're like, it's a fucking cult, at some point they also can't pay for shit. And as soon as people start feeling things in their wallet, that's when they are snapped back to reality ever so slightly. You know, not even to mention all the other people who, you know, are already staunchly opposed to this. So, yeah.
Was expecting living standards this year to rise by 0.9% for the average working age household. They now think it's going to drop by 0.6% because of everything that's going on. They calculate that as a £480 hit. And those figures don't include the impact yet of food prices, because the foundation says it's too early to make that calculation. But those food prices are likely to have a big impact on households. That will increase the pressure on the Chancellor to tell us how far she can protect people from rising prices. Just today, the German government said it was going to commit £1.4 billion to cutting duties on petrol and diesel.
Thanks very much, Neil MacDonald there. Matt?
Thanks, Jackie.
It's interesting because, of course, we're not talking about like caps or anything, right? Like, it is definitely something to be said about how these like shocks in the supply chains lead to higher prices, but it's also, unfortunately, the price spikes and things like that. It's also in large part because, you know, these fossil fuel companies will never let chaos, never let a good crisis go to waste. And so they're also just like making profit off of that. And, you know, but yeah, let's keep watching.
Well, according to Israeli media, Benjamin Netanyahu has warned that the ceasefire between Iran and the US could turn on a dime. While at the same time, Israeli strikes on Lebanon and Hezbollah attacks have also stepped up. Our chief correspondent, Alex Thompson, is in Jerusalem now. Alex.
Well, yes. Well, if you thought that the recent talks between the Americans and the Iranians in Islamabad were, shall we say, inauspicious, just try this one for size. Netanyahu under clear pressure from Trump to get a deal with the Lebanese government to somehow shut down Hezbollah. It's the first time we've seen talks at this level between those two governments since the 1970s. But hang on a minute, it's all about shutting down Hezbollah. Hezbollah won't be at these talks. Of course they won't. They remain pledged to destroy Israel. Hezbollah saying to the somewhat puny forces of the Lebanese government, if you try and shut us down, you're going to get a civil war. And a senior official from them saying tonight, anything that happens from these talks is irrelevant to them. It all leaves Netanyahu grinding out slowly his so-called security zone in southern Lebanon. These pictures today show, you have to say, yet again, Israeli forces hitting a medical installation, several ambulances destroyed. It's reported that at least one person believed to be a passenger in one of those ambulances was killed. That was in Tyre, southern city on the coast in Lebanon. As for Netanyahu himself, well, he donned the fatigues, military fatigues, and went on something of a propaganda jaunt at the weekend into his so-called security zone in southern Lebanon. This is what he said.
The first thing is that they are pushing the enemy away from the border. We're not talking about 5 points, we're talking about a solid, deeper security zone that both prevents the danger of infiltration and pushes back the anti-tank missile threat.
It all leaves the Israeli people supportive of the war aims. They still want to see Hezbollah put into history, and they want to see regime change in Iran. But they know full well, as the whole world does, frankly, by now, that the stated aims, the war aims of Benjamin Netanyahu in these fronts on Iran, as in Lebanon, are a long, long way from being achieved.
Alex in Jerusalem, thank you very much indeed. Well, it's not often that the Pope makes a statement.
Yeah, so I want to stick a little bit longer with this. Yeah, because, you know, while all of this is happening, you know, we are pretending as if Israel is not like historically unpopular at this point. And it is like kind of toxic to associate with them as political leaders. I mean, yeah, let's watch some of these numbers.
Hey there, I'm Harry Enton, and today we are running all the numbers on Israel's U.S. popularity problem. Israel is losing support here in the United States, even amongst Republicans. Take a look at this data. Take a look at this data amongst young Republicans.
Let's take a look at the data, guys.
Look at this massive shift that we have had over just the last 4 years, the net favorability of Israel among Republicans under the age of 50. You know, you go back to 2022, 2 thumbs up. 2 thumbs up for Israel amongst young Republicans. But by 2025, look at this. Already a 30-point shift away. Their net favorability down to -2. Today, look at this. -16 points. That's an over 40-point shift in just 1, 2, 3, 4 years' time away from Israel amongst young Republicans. But that's not the only part of the Republican base where Israel is struggling. How about amongst moderate or liberal Republicans? They make up about 1/3 of the Republican base at this point in time. The net favorability of Israel with moderate liberal Republicans back in 2022, again, 2 thumbs up. You'll notice I do a lot of Siskel and Ebert references. I just really like them. At plus 26 points. Today, again, negative territory, -9 points. That's a 35-point shift in just 4 years' time, with moderate liberal Republicans shifting away from Israel.
And I wonder why that is. I wonder why. I wonder why there has been such a dramatic shift. It must be, I don't know, maybe people are just really anti-Semitic. Maybe that's what. No. While there is anti-Semitism, that happens to be primarily happening on the far right, with neo-Nazis and other far-right groups consistently being anti-Semitic and having anti-Semitic ideas about Israel and Israel's place in the world. Here on the left, we try to be very crystal clear about why we are critical against Israel. It's because we are coming at it from an anti-Zionist perspective, which is different than anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionism accurately and truthfully points out that the Israeli government is committing a genocide on the Palestinian people, and it is, slowly but surely taking away Palestinian territory and also expanding in the region in general and sowing chaos to its neighboring countries. And, maybe not everyone has that kind of idea or grip on the situation. Maybe people just are bombarded in their news feeds about the horrible things that Israel is doing to Palestinians that are practically trapped in their place of living. They're trapped. They can't go anywhere, and they're being bombed. They're just, being shot by Israeli soldiers, by IDF soldiers. And so, you start to wonder, even if you're a Republican, you start to wonder, like, what the fuck is happening? And you see billions and billions being out of nowhere just pushed towards Israel. And you start to wonder, well, what the fuck? You hear about Epstein having connections with Israel. You hear about, you see all of this shit, and what do you make of it? Well, at the very least, you're going to see this statistic, right? And, the best thing would be if people were actually able to, organize and put a firm pressure on their elected political officials to change course, to distance themselves from Israel, to put embargoes on Israel, to stop trade or other kind of defense agreements with Israel. Because, people are tired of seeing dead children day after day, killed by Israel.
And this, to me, gives you a good indication of why one of the more ardent critics of Israel within the Republican Party is actually, at this point, favored to win a competitive primary. You may know him, Thomas Massie. He, of course, is the representative from Kentucky's 4th District. He has been opposed by Donald Trump. Donald Trump has endorsed his opponent. Pro-Israel voices are also opposed. Many of them have also opposed Thomas Massie. But at this point, look at this. His chance of being the Republican nominee, winning that Republican primary in Kentucky's 4th District, is actually more likely than not to occur. Look at this. According to the Kalshi prediction market at this point, a 71% chance. But here's the thing. Again, I'm building blocks here. It's not just on the right. It's not just amongst Republicans where Israel is losing support amongst the unexpected places. How about among younger men who were a key part of Donald John Trump's coalition back in 2024? They have very much shifted away from Israel. Look at this. Net favorability of Israel among men under the age of 50.
Christ.
In 2022, not too bad, but not too hot to trot either at -3 points. By 2025, again, down we go, -22 points. That is a 19-point shift in just 3 years' time. But it gets even worse. Look at this for Israel. -47 points. That's a 44-point shift away from Israel on the net favorability amongst young men who, of course, shifted massively into the Republican column back in 2024, and they have been shifting away from Israel over the last 4 years. But here's the thing. You want to talk about unexpected? Perhaps no number I have seen is more unexpected than this one, because when we talk about the Democratic base, right, and we talk about them being against Israel, that's been true amongst liberal and very liberal Democrats for a decent period of time. But now we're even seeing it among moderate and conservative Democrats, because take a look at these numbers. I mean, this is a sea change. This is a sea change. Net favorability of Israel amongst non-liberal Democrats, that is those who identify as either
It's kind of
moderate.
interesting that we're really, I don't know if he's going to talk about like liberal or whatever, but the idea that we're really looking at like who would be considered like the more conservative elements of American society, like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess they sometimes have favorable opinions of Israel, but they are also very much like anti-Semitic sometimes, you know what I mean? But at the same time, that's not the majority of it, right? But I do find it funny that they're really focusing on like the non-liberals, on the conservatives, all this stuff. But yeah, I guess so. I'm also curious to see, because you know, for at the same time, you have a lot of like liberals that are super pro-Israel. So yeah, you know, sometimes it's a bit of a, you know, I don't know, it breaks people's brain a little bit, whichever way you look at it. It really does.
A conservative. Back in 2022, Israel was on the plus side of the ledger. I'll give it 1 thumbs up at plus 3 points. Look at this. By 2025, minus 30 points. That's a 33-point shift in just 3 years' time. You think that's a big shift? How about now? Look at this. Among moderate conservative Democrats, the net favor of Israel, down into the Sea of Galilee at minus 55 points. That's a nearly 60-point switcheroo in just 4 years' time. Now, why are we seeing these shifts? Why are we seeing these shifts amongst Democrats, amongst Republicans, at least certain portions of the Republican electorate, and why are we seeing it among younger men who are a big part of Trump's coalition? It is because it is part of a larger sea change against Israel. I mean, just take a look at these overall numbers right now. The net favorability of Israel among all adults. In 2022, it was plus 13 points. I'll give that 2 thumbs up. Look at by 2025, minus 8 points. That's a 21-point switch in just 3 years. And now, the net favorability of Israel amongst all adults, minus 23 points. That's a 36-point change in just 4 years' time amongst all adults. Now, okay, that's part of the reason why that we're seeing these groups within these shifts, right? A rising tide lifts all boats. But it's more than that. How about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which, of course, has been taking center stage over the past few years
Yeah, guys,
here in
it's
America?
a conflict. It's a conflict. It's just an Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They're just fighting. No, it is a brutal genocide. It's a horrific occupation where armless, defenseless Palestinians are being shot and killed in the street. Children are being killed, being bombed. Children are being tortured. Palestinian prisoners, people that get abducted and are held in Israeli jails, have the most horrific things happen to them. The things that Israelis do to Palestinians in prison, which also includes young boys, is horrible. They physically torture them, mentally torture them, they sexually abuse them, either with the Israeli prison guards or with prison dogs. And, you know, a lot of those people maybe don't always talk about it because it is so horrific and so traumatic. But even the people that do, you know, these stories are horrifying, you know? And so even when we're talking about this idea that, oh, there's been such a change in the adults, we're not even talking about the reasons why. We're just calling it an Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And that does such a disservice.
Especially after the October 7th attacks and then Israel's response to it.
Oh,
Take a
shut
look
the
here.
fuck up.
I mean, this is a change. This is a change. Who Americans sympathize more with, the Israelis or the Palestinians? Back in 2022, before the October 7th attacks, it was the Israelis by 28 points. That would even climb into the 40s, 50s, depending on which polling you looked at in terms of who Americans sympathize with, the margin very much on the side of Israel. But look at where we are now. In 2026, Americans sympathize more with the Palestinians by an 11-point margin. That is a shift of nearly 40 points in just 4 years' time. And when you compare it to 2023, after the October 7th attacks, we're talking about what, a 50, 60-point change? My goodness gracious. This is the best position that the Palestinians have ever been in the minds of the American public. The Palestinians making history in terms of who Americans sympathize more with. But it is not just the Israelis and the Palestinian conflict in which why we're seeing these shifts among all these different groups and overall as well. It is because of the man who right now is the prime minister, the longtime prime minister of Israel, who's been prime minister at least.
I hate this. I hate this argument so much because he is just one of the many, many people in that rotten system that, facilitate these things to happen. If Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't there, there would be another genocidal freak in there. So let's not pretend that it's only Netanyahu, but of course, let's see
parts,
what the
all the way back
statistics
to
are.
my childhood. I mean, I think he was the prime minister when I was like 8 or 9. That is how long. And while I look young, I'm not that young anymore. But take a look at Bibi Netanyahu. Look at his net favorability rating here in the United States. In early 2024, he was on the plus side of the ledger at plus 9 points. But look now, minus 23 points. Again, an over 30-point shift in the wrong direction if you are a fan of Bibi Netanyahu here in the United States. And among independents, we're talking about that his net favorability rating at this point is a minus 35 points in the average poll. He is about as popular as Donald Trump is here in the United States. And of course, Trump ain't too hot to trot, to borrow a phrase that I used earlier on. And here's the other thing, which is this is starting to have major electoral ramifications.
Here's where we get to maybe the point of it all, right? What is the goal of this whole change? Because, part of this change is because of what people see on their social media, right? The images that they see coming out of Gaza, and just in general, the type of things that they see, even like IDF soldiers post on their social media, which is like the most insane shit. But it's also very much because of protesting, because of organizing, because of all of these things that people on the ground have been doing in order to develop people's consciousness, in order to, help people's awareness of the situation develop. So, and that, of course, is not just done for any reason. That is done in order to have a political change, because that has to happen.
Israel has become a 4-letter word in Democratic primaries. And one way you can see that is AIPAC, right? AIPAC, the lobbying group. Google searches for AIPAC in 2026, up like a rocket, up 363% versus last year, reached an all-time high last month. You often hear those on the left using AIPAC against their opponents if they have in fact taken money from AIPAC. I'm not expecting that to change anytime soon on the left. I think the question is going to be, if these young Republican numbers hold, and we see this right here, will AIPAC and Israel possibly become a boogeyman on the right as well? We're not really quite sure at this point, given how quickly these numbers have changed. Maybe they'll change back the other way in 4 years' time. But the bottom line is this, views on Israel have shifted tremendously.
And what I also want to point out for this one, Nathan J. Robinson said it, Israel doesn't care about losing public opinion as long as it maintains political support. The crucial thing is to translate the shift in public sentiment into meaningful change in U.S. policy. Absolutely. And I think one thing is interesting to point out, we might as well talk about it right now, it's Italy. The Italian leader Meloni has very recently kind of been both taking a bit of distance from Trump, but also doing this thing where she suspends a defense agreement that Italy had with Israel. And all of this is interesting for the reason that, well, what does this say about, what can be done if public sentiment changes enough and there's political organizing to go along with it to, build that pressure, these mechanisms of pressure on our elected officials. Italy suspends defense deal with Israel following Israel's unacceptable attacks against the civilian population. So the specific triggers for this also were Israeli warning shots that were fired at an Italian convoy and the attacks on Lebanese civilians. Italy has suspended a long-standing defense agreement with Israel involving the exchange of military equipment and technological research. In the view of the current situation, the government has decided to suspend the automatic renewal of the defense agreement with Israel, said Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Italian news agency reported on Tuesday. Italian Foreign Minister Antonio Tajani was in Beirut on Monday for talks with Lebanese President Joseph Aoun. And he later posted that he was there to convey Italy's solidarity following Israel's unacceptable attacks on the civilian population. So the defense agreement between Italy and Israel is suspended for now, at least. Again, I'm sure that Meloni, the prime minister, was seeing the writing on the wall with Orban not getting elected, not getting reelected, and her referendum failing. There was just a lot of things stacking up against her, so she kind of had to make a decision. Will she keep sucking Trump off like that, being a long-standing staunch supporter of Trump in Europe, or will she have to bow a little bit to what the internal politics are? So I guess, is this just the Pope thing? I don't care about that. I mean, that was just one of the things, right? So let's see. Yeah, this one I want to focus on.
Giorgia Meloni's right-wing government has been one of Israel's closest
Her bangs are freaking me out, by the way.
Allies in Europe. In recent weeks, however, Italy has criticized Israeli attacks on Lebanon, including warning shots allegedly fired at Italian UN peacekeepers there. On Tuesday, the Italian Prime Minister went a step further.
In light of the current situation, the government has decided to suspend the automatic renewal of the defense agreement with Israel.
According to a defense ministry source, one consequence of this is that Rome will no longer cooperate with Israel on military training, a strategic but mostly symbolic blow.
Yes, and this is very important to note, because I think either last Saturday or last Wednesday we talked about another symbolic decision that was made. I think it was Milan. In Milan abolished their twin city relationship or whatever with Tel Aviv or something like that. And again, these are extremely symbolic measurements, okay? Unless this, goes further and goes to more serious, substantial places, these are symbolic gestures in order to pacify her base and the rest of the population, and especially also just the political atmosphere.
Italy isn't the only Western country to shift away from defense cooperation with Israel. In September, Spain approved a total arms embargo on the country, banning all exports to Israel of defense material and dual-use products or technologies, and the import of such equipment to Spain. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said the move was part of a package of measures aimed at halting what he called the genocide in Gaza. Even in the United States, Israel's strongest ally, support is starting to wane. J Street, an advocacy group that describes itself as the political home for pro-Israel, pro-peace Americans, called on Monday for a recalibration of the US-Israel security relationship. It cited the use of American weapons in ways that have resulted in mass civilian casualties and raised serious concerns about war crimes.
These developments underscore the need for a more sustainable approach that ensures America's support for Israel is not a blank check.
Currently, in line with the memorandum...
Tides are changing, guys. I mean, again, if this, public sentiment changing is good, it's a first step. The next step needs to be building the organizing, building the political organizing around that dissatisfaction. It means that, the people that are going to be elected need to be firm on these things, and not just to be like, oh, we'll send some, concerned words out and be like, bad Israel, bad Netanyahu. No, we need to elect officials that will uphold the ICJ rulings. We need to, elect people into office that will, do what is necessary to put embargoes on Israel in order to shut it down, shut down the genocide, the apartheid, just like with South Africa.
Memorandum of Understanding signed during the Obama administration in 2016, the US provides Israel with $3.3 billion in foreign military financing annually.
I feel like you can, I don't know when this was, but I feel like this was probably pre-Trump because it's not so gold, but maybe I'm wrong.
$3.3 billion in foreign military financing annually, as well as $500 million for cooperative programs for missile defense. There's been growing debate among Democrats in recent years around U.S. security assistance to Israel, and even a small number of voices within the Republican Party have criticized arms sales.
Oh. Okay, we just watched that one. Let us continue watching this one. Yeah, so again, the core of the thing is here that this is happening, you know, simultaneously, right? These developments, you know, Italy taking a step back, and we saw this previously. We see this oftentimes, right? That right-wing parties, right-wing political forces, they will know, you know, where they know when to kind of feign that they also agree with like the public sentiment versus when to align with like the most maximalist, destructive political figures. And so, you know, it's totally valid that Meloni right now is like, you know, seeing the writing on the wall, seeing what Viktor Orban did, and being like, you know what, it's time to at least kind of fake it a little and do, you know, a couple of these things to pretend that we're really taking a tough stance. I mean, she sees what, you know, the support that might give to Pedro Sanchez, who at the end of the day isn't even like the most left person, you know, that we could be supporting. He's not part of like the true left in Europe. He's center left, but still he's one of the few center left candidates that is taking this stance, and it is turning out to be a very popular, powerful stance, and it might very well, you know, get him reelected. So Meloni sees the writing on the wall. She sees what happens when you're like Viktor Orban, and she sees what happens when you take more of a position like Pedro Sanchez. So, you know, it might be temporary, but still, it means that our pressure is building up to something. Doesn't mean we're done, but it's building up to something.
Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said that her government has suspended a defense cooperation pact with Israel. It comes after Israel fired warning shots last week at Italian troops serving in Lebanon under a UN mandate, causing damage to a vehicle, and after Giorgia Meloni's criticism of Israel's bombardment of Lebanon. The far-right government has until now been one of Israel's closest supporters in Europe.
Exactly.
Gupta is in Rome.
Exactly. Also, you know, speaking about Orban, it's not as if Magyar got elected for being an anti-Zionist, right? He got elected for not being Viktor Orban, but he still comes from the same. He's still cut from the same cloth. He for a long time was working under Viktor Orban, and we're going to talk about it later. But even Magyar right now has already made plans to invite Netanyahu to Hungary. So it will be in a lot of ways status quo behavior, but maybe not as overtly, maybe not as loudly, but still, you know.
Seema, I hope you can hear us. What has brought Giorgia Meloni to this point?
Yes. Well, it is quite a sharp reversal, as you mentioned. I mean, back in 2023, early 2023, Benjamin Netanyahu actually visited Rome. And at the time, Ms. Meloni said that Israel is a friend and key partner of Italy. And now, today, she has made a statement saying, in light of the current situation, the government decided to suspend that Defense Cooperation Pact. Now, that pact was set up back in 2003 under the government of then Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi. It is about procurement and training, as well as the import, export, and transit of defense and military equipment. And so it's not a massive thing for Italy, but for Israel, but it was definitely a point of connection for these two countries. And it was something that was automatically renewed every 5 years. But the decision was made that as the renewal was coming up, not to do it this time round. And this this was something that the government, the opposition here, had been long calling for the government to do. And Ms. Meloni said, essentially, when things don't go, are happening that we don't agree with, we will act accordingly. So really a reaction, perhaps, as you mentioned, to the warning shots that were fired by Israeli soldiers on the Italian soldiers that are based in Lebanon as part of a UN force. There were no injuries, but a vehicle was damaged. And at the time, Rome summoned the Israeli ambassador to Italy. And subsequently, the foreign minister visited Lebanon on Monday, and he said it was unacceptable, the attacks on Lebanese civilians. Israel, in turn, calling on the Italian ambassador to Israel. He was summoned. So clearly, tit for tat, and now the suspension of that agreement. Israel, of course, saying on their part that this was not an important security agreement. It was simply a memorandum of understanding, but clearly this is a strain on ties.
Indeed, I think they can dress it up however they want. It's clearly someone who is actually saying they disagree with what they are doing, and clearly this is having an effect across the international community. And I'm wondering, Seema, is the position now taken by Meloni really a reflection of public opinion in Italy?
Yes, I think it's very much a calculation on her part in terms of moving forward. She's very much aware of the fact that Italians have taken to the streets to protest against the Israeli government, particularly the situation and the war in Gaza and their support for Palestinians. And Italians are also very much against the US-Israeli war in Iran, feeling that, of course, this is having an impact on their bottom line in terms of resulting in higher gas and petrol prices. And so with this much opposition, she's also got her eye on the general elections in 2027, and she can't afford to lose people's support. It's interesting today that the Milan-based daily Corriere della Sera also published a short interview with President Trump on his comments on Ms. Meloni, and he said he was very shocked by her decision not to assist the US in the war against Iran. And he actually said, and I quote, "Do people like her? I can't believe it. I thought she had courage. I was wrong. It's very different from what I thought she was." So clearly a reaction also from Mr. Trump to her statements about him, particularly in reference to the Pope. She said the statements that Mr. Trump made, his criticisms of Pope Leo XIV, were unacceptable. He turned around and said she was unacceptable because it seems as if she doesn't mind Iran having a nuclear weapon that...
It's just insane. She's like doing the, I don't even know if I can call it bare minimum, but she's like doing the thing where she's like, I don't know, man, it's a little, it's unacceptable. And he's like, you're unacceptable. She is the one that's unacceptable. It's I don't know, man. It's a little cringe. It's a little cringe. But yeah, I think that is the majority that I wanted to get through. Going back quickly to the Strait of Hormuz talk, because I also wanted to dive into that. Let's see. But yeah, I mean, before we go back to it, I thought this was also well put by Declassified UK, that even the Meloni government in Italy is to suspend its military agreement with Israel while Britain's remains in place. And when will the UK national media even report the UK has a secret military agreement with Israel? And so, as we can see here, as reported by Declassified UK back in October 25, I guess, the secret UK-Israel military deal in place throughout genocide. A military agreement Britain and Israel signed in 2020 has not been modified despite Israel's attacks on Gaza, the Ministry of Defense admits. In December 2020, the Israeli Defense Forces IDF tweeted that it had signed a military agreement with the UK. It said British and Israeli military chiefs had agreed to formalize and enhance the defense partnership and support the growing Israel-UK partnership. In Britain, the government gave the new agreement no publicity. Months passed in silence with no press release or mention by the Ministry of Defense, together with no noticeable interest by the national media. And it is very interesting, of course, especially if you also combine it with the fact that BBC has been found to be, making editorials in a certain way. And the UK also very famously really focusing now on having, military investment and everything that comes out of it being the national growth engine, being the country's growth engine. But, as we know, we talked about this before, this is economically irrational. Like, whatever you put into it, you get less out of it. And it's socially explosive. Like, the money that gets invested, it's definitely not coming from the wealthiest, people in the UK. It's coming from your grandparents' pensions. It's coming from education funding. It's coming from public health care funding. And so, the cost of living crisis that's already hurting a lot of people in the UK will only get worse. So, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so let's get back to the, big brain operations between the UK and France, trying to figure out a way to open the Strait of Hormuz, which, let's be clear, was already open prior to the United States deciding to preemptively strike Iran because Israel wanted to strike Iran. Let's keep the facts straight here, okay? On the Control Fin broadcast, we talk straight facts.
Here at Downing Street, the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is getting ready to co-host a summit with the French President Emmanuel Macron on Friday in Paris, where a number of nations will try to work out a plan on how to keep international shipping safe going through the Strait of Hormuz once the war is over. And that's really important to highlight because these nations are not offering to take part in any military action alongside the US to open up the strait. In fact, the French president previously said that any initiative they might take will be purely defensive, in his own words, and quite apart from the warring parties. So what can they do? Now, there are some fears that Iran may have mined the strait, and there are British minesweepers in the region, but these are the kind of operational details that have not been made public yet. What's for certain is that Britain is feeling the economic pain of the strait being blocked, and here at number 11 Downing Street, the home of the UK Finance Minister, they will be taking stock of the news that's come out today on Tuesday from the International Monetary Fund that out of all of the G7 nations' economies, Britain's will be hit the hardest by the fallout from the Iran.
We talked about this as well, like a couple of weeks ago, which is insane if you think about it. The UK, which let the United States use their military bases so freely, is the one going to get hit the hardest. And mind you, it's not Keir Starmer that's going to get hit the hardest. It is the individual, or not the individual, the collective of working class people that are going to be hit the hardest. The people that are already extremely struggling, trying to pay rent. Those are the people that are going to be struggling more. It's not the wealthy people in UK, all right? And the right-wing people, who are also more often than not part of the wealthy class, they will love to pin this on migrants, the people coming in on boats, ruining everything. Hell no, man. The people on boats ruining things is the US with their USS fucking Abraham Lincoln ship or whatever they're called. Those warships and the people on those ships and the people commanding those ships, those are the boats that you need to be worrying about, okay? Migrants, what are they going to do they're going to work a job that people most likely don't want to work. Boo-hoo. Cry harder, man. If anything, they're helping your economy. It's fucking insane, man. Shit will get worse in the UK and right-wing people will find a way to blame it on migrants when it's literally their Keir Starmer, Donald Trump, Netanyahu, all of these fucks. And we got a new follower. YellRaw1221. Thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the broadcast. My name's Finn. What's up, chatter? What's up? Welcome. Good to have you. Good to have you. As you might notice, we're talking about some news. I'm from Europe, so I talk a lot about Europe news. But let's see. Oh yeah, I wanted to get here maybe. They're demographically they're going to demographically replace the white majority. The economy is not the primary metric to measure the health of a nation. I don't agree at all, to be honest. I don't. It's the economy isn't the primary metric to measure the health of a nation. And so first of all, white replacement theory it's not a thing, okay? It's what they tell you in order to distract you from the literal white people doing violence on you. But that's not the point. It's not like the villains are not the white people, but the villains are the really wealthy people. Because, I mean, we're just talking about it. The UK will be hit the hardest economically. It's going to hurt working people, families, poor families. And no migrant is going to do any of that, you know? That's like saying France will be France if it's not inhabited by ethnic French people. Dude, it's just not, that's just not how it works, you know? Like any person that is migrating, you know, either you're migrating because you come from a really well-off background and you're like an expat, you're like fancy, or you're migrating because a country like France colonized you or, you know, set off civil war and made your country unlivable. And so, you know, what are you going to do? You're going to die, or you're going to try to maybe build a better life somewhere else. And what that consists of is you are contributing to that country. You are, you know, working like any other human being, just trying to live your normal life. What does skin color actually have to do with it? It's just so nonsensical. That's why it's like, it's really crazy to argue against this, because you're making it a race thing when it's people, like, by and large, like when people come to a new country, it's because they are victims of like war and shit like that, you know? If shit wasn't bad in the places that they live, they wouldn't be migrating. So if anything, you should be really against all the politicians that just want to make war, because that's gonna, you know, create more people that unfortunately cannot live in the places where they want to live. That is somewhat true, but you're missing the part where those countries are unstable and undeveloped before they were colonized. I really disagree. It's just not the truth. Any country, any place, also nations are a relatively recent concept, but any region has the right to develop themselves, okay? Any region has the right to develop their democracy, to develop, you know, their society. We shouldn't be just, you know, invading countries. We shouldn't be bombing countries into democracy, because that's not going to work. But the idea that these places were bad before colonization is also just not true. You know, the UK industrialized first, and through the accumulation that they built through industrialization, they got more and more resources, but they also got more and more hungry to, you know, get more resources. And so it's just a bit of luck that the UK was the one that industrialized first and then that did all that crazy shit, you know? And that's the whole thing, right? You know, like things are not perfect in the UK. Like white people, white culture is not this like perfect thing. Things suck. Most of the times you get abused from people in your family that are in your home. You know, you are much more likely to get abused by someone that's close to you than just like a random person on the street. And that's the god honest truth. Yeah, I'm not pro-war. I agree. We should I guess you mean we should not be bombing in the Middle East, which you say just incentivizes mass migration to Western countries. Yeah, not to be. I mean, it's not mass migration, right? It's like migration always has existed in human history. It's a pretty normal thing. Like cultural exchange, migration is a normal part of life. But, you know, things like climate change are causing places to be unlivable. War causes places to be unlivable. And so it's just a normal consequence. Like even people in Germany, like German men, I don't remember the statistic. I think it's like 1 in 5 German men wants to leave as well. Like those are also migrants. Just because they're white doesn't mean they're not migrants. So, yeah. Like my point is everyone is a migrant. Everyone moves around and should have the right to. Like borders are a scar on the face of the earth. You know, resources and people should be allowed to develop normally, and then we wouldn't have these like places that are suffering from extreme poverty. And people are just like, because like at the end of the day, a migrant is just like you. A migrant just wants to hold a job, have a family, experience the beauty of life, and then everyone dies, you know? Like, but while you're alive, you might as well try. So who are you to say that you wouldn't do the same thing if you were in their position? Yeah, but conquest is part of the natural order. Strong things, nations always expand and conquer weaker things. I don't know, man. I really don't know about that. China's not doing that. China's like, listen, we're gonna trade on practical, equal terms, which I think is the way to go. But capitalism, if that's maybe what you're referring to, capitalism does kind of run on competition, but it also runs on who owns everything already, right? And people that own everything already sometimes tend to be really dead set on, you know, keeping what they own, and they don't care about all of the bloodshed that goes along with it. But for the most part, where we have seen it is in the slave trade, and it's in all of these like colonial markets that are captive markets for European manufacturing. Even within Europe, like Eastern Europe, for a long time after the fall of the USSR, was a captive market for Germany, both for the people, the workers, and, you know, to sell the manufactured goods. Sure, but type of migrant also needs to be considered. Race, culture, religion, etc. are very important to a cooperative society. I don't think so, man. I think the only thing that needs to be considered, you know, sure, do a background check. Of course, like do the sensible things. But as soon as you're going to start being like, oh, this person is this color, therefore they're less likely, man, like people native to a country are just as likely, if not more likely, to commit crime, you know? Like, this is a really famous statistic in the US, and it holds up in other places too. People that migrate somewhere are more likely to be better, to have better results in education, to be less likely to commit crime. Like, migrants are statistically more likely to do better in education and do less crime than the native population. Let that sink in. Like, that's true in America for people that immigrate to America, and other places too. Like, certain media love to cherry pick examples of like migrants being criminals. But like, if we broaden our perspective a little and look at the full statistics, it's really extremely cherry picked. China is currently twisting the arms of a lot of South American countries into allowing them to build military and trade infrastructure in South America to threaten the American sphere of influence. Well, funny you should mention South America. Which country just did a small bombing campaign and then abducted a head of state? Was it China or was it the United States? Who right now is strangling Cuba? And who is delivering Cuba solar panels? The United States is strangling Cuba after it had been under embargo for 60 years. Now it's even going further than that and strangling it from energy resources. China, in the meantime, has steadily, over the last years, but also recently, been delivering solar panels so that at least Cubans can be self-sufficient. Now, what seems better, right? A country that only wants to dominate, or a country that seeks to, invest. And, there's a famous quote that says, wherever the United States goes, it leaves destruction and hell. And wherever China goes, it leaves a library, right? That really shows the difference in how it's invested. And right now, even in Venezuela, going back to Venezuela, all of the like oil investments and things that are happening, of course it's happening now because the country has been broken to the will of the United States and the oil companies, right? It's not, Venezuelan people are not going to be benefiting from it. The people that are going to be benefiting from it are wealthy oil people, wealthy oil companies. They're given jobs and government assistance over natural born citizens. And that is not true. Look at the major cities. They're shitholes. I'm American, by the way. Yes, that's the one thing I like that Trump has done. We should be getting back to the Monroe Doctrine instead of fighting wars in the desert. Venezuela was cooperating with China. We cannot allow China to have influence in our backyard. I mean, okay, if you think China is not allowed to have influence in the backyard of another country, then what do you think about all of the military bases that the United States has all over the world? What do you think about all of the military shipments or military ships that are now like stationed close to Iran, and all of the military bases? I'm from Europe, like all of the military bases in Europe from the United States. And even if they don't have American military bases in Europe, America forces European countries to let America use their military bases. Like, who is the real, like, dominating violent entity here, in your opinion? Like, because I think the facts speak for themselves. Like, if you look at all these things, all these facts. Yeah, that is my country, though. I want my country to be dominant. Part of that is severing the interests of other countries. But that's horrible, man. Like, do you have a good situation where you have a good paying job, you have like a house, you have like good health care, you are able to go to get good education? Do you have those things? Or is more and more billions and billions of your taxpayer money, your friend's taxpayer money, your family taxpayer money going over to Israel? Like, do you want healthcare? Do you want affordable gas at the pump? Do you want those things? Or you're just going to be like, you're going to let, Donald Trump, like, and not just Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a representation of America's interest, right? Like, let your political leaders just like bleed you dry like that. I think that is insane. Like, from the outside looking in, I think that it is insane. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not a MAGA supporter. Okay, I see. Yeah, I don't know. I think because again, like I said, I'm from Europe. I was born and raised in the Netherlands. So, yeah, that. And right now I'm living and working a bit in Portugal, but pretty much my whole life I lived in the Netherlands. But yeah, when I see America, I just, the Netherlands, even though we have like some social safety nets, it is also very much deteriorating. And that's because the Netherlands, like the UK, like France, like Germany, they're all deciding like, maybe we should make military spending our growth engine, the growth engine of our economy. And it's economically irrational. All of the money you put into it, you get less yield out of it. And not only that, the money's got to come from somewhere, and it's going to come from pensions, it's going to come from education spending, it's going to come from healthcare spending. And so it's just, it crumbles society down. And none of that is being done by migrants, Again, migrants, even to add to that, migrants across the board, no matter what country it is, migrants pay more into the social safety net than they're ever able to get out of it. Like, most countries' social safety nets would collapse if it wasn't for migrants, because they have to pay into it. But most of the time, they cannot get anything out of it. So you should, for the most part, be thankful for migrants keeping your country somewhat afloat, while all of these political leaders, my country's included, my continent included, are just going crazy, cutting social spending for like public spending in order to develop these like military growth engines in their countries. Because guess what? Wealthy people are hoarding money, right? They're getting rich and rich and richer. And, the money's not going to come from them to do military spending. It's going to come from us. That is true. If a country stays stagnant and does not use that military spending to get more resources, that act as a return on investment. But that's horrible, man. Do you want to live in a world like that? Like, genuinely, do you think that that's the only way? Because I promise you, there are other ways. Like, do you think the only way to be friends with someone is to bully them? Or do you think that you can have friendships where you can trust people, where you build mutually beneficial relationships? Like, we know more now, and we just have other tools at our disposal. We're not in the fucking cave times, that was the way for all of human history until like 60 years ago. I doubt that, man. I feel like a small group of people usually may get power, people that own everything, capitalists, or before that, it has different names, but kings, or, all of this shit. These are people that, for the luck of it, right? For the luck of it, they lucked into a lot of power and they did horrible things to maintain it. Now, does that one person falling into a lucky position mean that it is true? That it is some like divine providence? That it is like this abstract idea of divine rule, that it is actually rational? I severely disagree. Kings are divinely appointed. I mean, are you religious, I guess? Like, I don't know. Like, how does that make sense, It's completely nonsensical. It's something that was created in order for the masses to be subdued, right? If you just tell people, yeah, God appointed this guy, so you better listen, or God will punish you. Yeah, and if people are illiterate, if people's lives suck already, what are they gonna do? But that's also not even true. I gotta give more credit to peasants. Peasants rebelled a lot. Peasants rebelled a lot. Peasants rebelled a lot. Peasants rebelled a lot, and it usually got them much further than to just, blindly follow the fucking crushing rule of their king. So you're just espousing Marxism. I'm espousing that we shouldn't get fucked over. That's what I'm espousing. I want to have a good life. I want to be able to go on vacations. I want to be able to have healthcare. I want to be able to have cool gadgets. I want to be able to buy an apartment. Like, I don't even need a house. I want to just get stuff, But I can't get stuff if children in Palestine keep getting fucking decapitated, right? Because of my tax money. That's my position. I don't care what you call it. But let's just actually be based in reality with what we're thinking about. And so, I don't know, maybe I'm a bit crude in the way I phrase things, but I'm just like, I can't have normal shit that is, should be of the 21st century, because we are doing like some barbaric shit to some innocent people just because they, unfortunately were born there. Like, I don't know. I don't think that is normal at all. I think that that's insane. The idea of kings being tyrannical who would just slaughter their subject at a whim, if they felt like it's not true. I mean, sure, it was the vizier, or it was whoever. The point is, the king had a structure around him that made sure that the kingdom stayed in place. The king himself, who cares? He's just a puppet, right? But, the point is, to have a king, you need a whole lot of peasants that don't have anything, Yeah, I disagree with bombing and killing Palestinians. So, I mean, for me, that's more important, right? Like, we can have a fun little chat with like a beer or whatever about kings and all of this stuff, right? But what's happening right now, I think it's very important for us to do agree on. And I think we do. I think on the important things we do agree on. But I think where we divert is that you are like, from if I understand it, right? You're like, yeah, we should have some like force projection. We should do some like dominating, but it should be slightly different. And I'm more like, let's not put that much resources into like this useless force projecting, and let's put resources into developing our manufacturing. Let's get people jobs. Because, fun fact, all of the money that you put into military investment brings way less jobs than, a lot of other types of investment. So it's just across the board, it's just bad for business, it's bad for people at home, it's bad for people abroad. It just doesn't make any sense. And that's why I'm doing this, because I feel like we don't usually get to those details, and then we all get confused and talk about other things when we agree on the core of it, and now we just need to work out the rest of it. You know what I mean? I'm a nationalist. I believe that a leader of a country's primary agenda should be to act in the interests of its own people. Fuck yeah, dude. Same. And I think that sometimes that's not really done, Often it's not really done, because, I mean, you're an American. I'm sure you're well aware of the Epstein files. And, the idea that, you just have a ruling class, doesn't matter the individuals inside of it, probably on a rotating basis or whatever, whoever gets one up on the other person. But across the board, you have a ruling class, and you have all kinds of people whose only purpose is to defend the interests of those people and not of us. We can go fuck ourselves, apparently. But no, I agree. I mean, I fundamentally think that our resources are better invested into, developing factories, into, getting people better paying jobs, healthcare, housing, these things that are just so good and are good investments into the future, not just of people's individual lives, but of the longevity of a society in order to be able to continue existing and not just disintegrate. Hey, Blue is Taken, what's up? Welcome to the chat. We're in a heated debate here. I mean, I don't know. It's a good chat, We're getting things out there. But I think I wanted to move on to another news about some Euro news. Because, I've been talking a lot about the horrors of what Israel is doing in Gaza. Let's watch this video and then we can see what the oh, that's awesome. What's up, chat? Yeah. But yeah, there is I pretty much just want to talk about some of the European news that we are seeing after some of the most horrific things continuing to be done by Israel against Palestinians or Lebanese people. So yeah, unfortunately, this will be really difficult, but important to see. And then we're going to see what the response has been from the French politicians and the UK politicians. Spoiler alert, they're attempting to criminalize and punish people in the pro-Palestinian movement and people that express anti-Zionist expressions. But this is a video by France 24 reporting on the fact that a toddler was among the 10 killed in Israeli strikes on Gaza.
It's a bleak day for this father, whose 3-year-old son Yaya was killed by an Israeli airstrike in Gaza City. His family overcome with grief.
The strike happened while my cousins were returning from a wedding. One of them was martyred and the rest are in hospital with injuries. We don't know who's alive and who has died.
At Shifa Hospital, Yaya's family struggled to come to terms with his death and process how it unfolded.
We had lunch. There were 3 or 4 of us when we went out. 2 of my cousins and my son. We arrived at the Temraz roundabout and the tunnel. Suddenly, I looked up and saw blood. My son was standing on his uncle's shoulders. 5 minutes earlier, he had taken him from my shoulders. I saw people torn apart in the street.
We've been waiting for de-escalation. We've been waiting for 3 years. Every day, we think it will happen today. We need each minute desperately. We want de-escalation, we want peace, we want goodness. This is what we want. We are suffering. I swear, we're exhausted. What did this kid do wrong? He was just walking in the street.
According to Gaza's health ministry, Yahya is among several Palestinians killed in a strike on Tuesday that had targeted a police vehicle. The Israeli military said it was looking into the incident. Further north, near Jabalia, health authorities said Israeli fire killed a 14-year-old child. Since the announcement of a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas in October, more than 750 Palestinians have been killed, while militants have killed several Israeli troops.
Dude, we're not angry enough, When I see this shit, I'm like, we are not angry enough. Like I said, let's go to what I wanted to talk about, specifically these 2 stories. The one story, French MPs to vote on a bill that would treat anti-Zionism as terrorism. So the critique of murdering children, the people that are accurately saying we shouldn't be doing that, we shouldn't be spending any resources on that, and we shouldn't be supporting Israel in doing that. The critique on that is going to get criminalized, potentially. It hasn't passed, but there will be voting on it. There is a lot of pushback against it, but that's what we're criticizing. That's what we're criminalizing. That's what we're really going to be, that's what French politicians think is good, right? Again, it's not every French politician across the board, But this is something apparently that has come up. Simultaneously, we are also seeing in the UK, politicians there debating a policing bill aimed at curtailing Palestine protests. Again, another attack on people's ability to express any kind of like critique against the, any of the horrors that they're seeing, right? Because again, we just saw a clip about how much the public favor has changed in regards to Israel. Like people across the board do not support Israel anymore, and they're across the board net favorable towards Palestinians. And I mean, it is kind of crazy that it sometimes comes down to these like far right figures. We have center left Sanchez, from the start being very anti-war. We have a little bit more further to the left, Zach Polanski from the Greens in the UK, also being very firmly anti-war, being anti-Zionist. And then you have in France, France on Bout, almost like the true European left and those that are aligned with them, being really firmly in their critique on Israel and the genocide and the complicity of the Western governments, European governments. But yeah, it just blows your mind, People are seeing this shit, right? People are seeing this type of senseless murder. And this is what politicians think to do, really. Like, at least fucking far-right Meloni from Italy has some sense in her head to be like, oh shit, I just lost a referendum. Orban just got defeated. Trump is doing horrible. This is extremely unpopular. Like, every political figure in my country is screaming at me. Maybe I need to do some, at least symbolic gestures to distance myself from Trump and distance myself from just flat out, being a loud and proud Israel supporter. At least Meloni can smell the change. But these fucking policies are just insane to be coming up. So we'll see what will happen. Hassan also commenting on it, that this would be the death of liberal democracy, and that it is all for a genocidal apartheid state, that it is truly unbelievable. It pisses me off. It's extremely upsetting to see it. But again, there is also a lot of pushback, right? This is not being, able to pass by without commentary. This is absolutely a lot of pushback against this. Let's see. So what we can read, for example, about the French bill that would treat anti-Zionism as terrorism. French MPs are preparing to vote on a law that treats criticism of Israel as anti-Semitic. Remember, when we talked about in France, when that fucking far-right guy died from his wounds after being in a fight with leftists, the marches that happened after that guy died, were all neo-Nazi marches, far-right extremists. And what did they do? They put anti-Semitic graffiti all over Paris. Now, tell me who's really responsible for anti-Semitism. I have yet to see a leftist march. When leftists are demonstrating and protesting and doing marches, I have yet to see a fucking wall-to-wall anti-Semitic sayings, And no, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free is not anti-Semitic. It is a criticism of Israel as an apartheid occupying force. Lawmakers will debate the bill informally dubbed Yadan's Law in reference to the MP who proposed the law, Caroline Yadan, on 18 April. The bill would make it an offense to call for the destruction of Israel or any other state recognized by France. Under current law, a direct incitement to terrorism is punishable by 5 years in prison and a 75,000 euro fine. The bill would expand that to implicit incitement or glorification of terrorist acts. This was really reminiscent of what they have been doing in the UK with arresting all of these old people in wheelchairs that are just holding a paper that says, I support Palestinians. I support Palestine action, I oppose genocide. It's giving that. It's giving we're going to arrest all of the old people and like people that are clearly not like, that are clearly just expressing, you know, anti-genocide statements. And I mean, this person here also stating that former anti-terrorism judge Mark Trevidic told Middle East Eye, I'd never seen anything like it. The notion of implicit incitement to terrorism. This is just like you're trying to smell the air and see what the wind, which way the wind is blowing or something. Do you realize what that means? Becoming a censor for other people's thoughts, trying to guess what a person really meant. And of course, you know, this wouldn't be something that is done with the benefit of the doubt. No, this is very specifically going to target anti-Zionist, pro-Palestinian organizing. And they, I mean, here in the article, they quote the anti-Semitic acts that have risen since October 7, 2023. But I very much want to point out that for the most part, political violence of this type is overwhelmingly, almost always committed by the far right. Almost always. Because it's not just against Jewish people, it's against migrants, it's against women, it's against LGBTQ people. Though, like the far right is the ones that are usually inflicting violence. That's a statistical fact. And we talked about it as well in this broadcast. And what's happening in the UK, in addition to already something similar existing that is now being proposed in France, right now we're seeing MPs debate policing bill aimed at curtailing Palestine protests. After the government tabled several new amendments to limit the scope of protests. Since the bill was last heard in 2025, new clauses to ban protests in particular areas on the basis of cumulative disruption have been added. Anyone who breaks conditions imposed on a protest would face arrest, and if a court decides that they ought to have known the rules, a lot of guessing going on here, a lot of smelling the wind to see where the wind blows going on here, imprisonment for up to 6 months. The Home Office has made it clear that the new rules have been drafted with the aim of curtailing the national marches for Palestine held across the UK since October 2023. Also, keep in mind, so we have seen that, you know, a lot of elderly people, a lot of poor old grandmas were being arrested for holding a little paper that said, I support Palestine action, I oppose genocide. And, you know, all of the people that were getting arrested for this stupid fucking decision by the government were also really clogging up the court system in the UK, right? Not only were they wasting police resources, they were also completely disrupting the normal flow of like judicial proceedings in the UK. So it's just so insane, right? They would rather fuck up everything in their country, make it more inefficient, than to take a stance against genocide. It's so horrible, man. Jesus Christ. The Home Office has made it clear that the new rules have been drafted with the aim of curtailing the national... Oh yeah, I read that. Yeah, a lot of organizations condemn the proposals. It's really horrible. It's horrible. I guess another thing that was happening in the UK... Oh, shit, I think I accidentally closed it. And this is happening simultaneously. There's so much shit happening in the UK and in France. NHS, which is the National Health Services, so let's say the healthcare in the UK, the staff, the United Kingdom healthcare staff, was told to stop criticizing Palantir or lose your job. Hospitals pressure to adopt tech from the IDF contractor. NHS staff have been told they might lose their jobs if they criticize NHS England's controversial £330 million contract with IDF contractor Palantir. According to the Financial Times, an analytics officer who had raised concerns about Palantir's federal data platform was told by a senior NHS official, if you criticize the FDP one more time, you're going to lose your job. Yeah, it is insane. It is really insane. I know I'm not the only one inside the NHS who has been warned of criticizing the tool publicly, the analytics officer added. In January 2024, Palantir announced a strategic partnership with the Israeli government to support war-related missions, meaning its tools are being used in genocide. It also provides technology to immigration enforcement in the US, and founder Peter Thiel has provided financial backing to Donald Trump. And keep in mind, the way that this works, I mean, it works in a lot of different ways, right? There's a lot of services being exchanged or whatever. But we've talked about this before, that the way this works is that Palantir has algorithms, has these like AI tools that they train in areas that are bombed by Israel in order to train their AI. And then they package it, they make it into a product, and then they sell it to like hospitals in the UK in order to better manage, you know, maybe in situations of extreme social unrest, how to better manage, you know, hospital resources. That's fucking insane. What's up, by Baromjon Kudayar? What's up, chatter? What's up? Welcome to the chat. Hello, where are you from? I'm from Europe. I'm a Dutch Portuguese person. Where are you from? Welcome to the chat. So yeah, and again, that's just one example of the service that's then provided. There's a lot of other ethical concerns, and a lot of people are being critical about it. So, for example, citing ethical concerns, the British Medical Association, not just a little grandma on the street with a anti-genocide sign, the British Medical Association has instructed union members to not adopt Palantir's federal data platform. In February, BMI chair Tom Dolphin, cool name by the way, cool name, told the British Medical Journal, given Palantir's track record, including controversies in the US involving immigration enforcement and risk to patient trust, data security, and NHS independence, we believe that there must be a complete break from Palantir technologies in the NHS and no further contracts awarded. But staff told the Financial Times that NHS organizations are under pressure to sign up voluntarily. That's a bit insane. Voluntarily? Under pressure? I don't know about that. You're from Asia? Nice. That's awesome. Welcome. That's really cool. It's probably pretty late for you, right? I mean, for me, it's already 8 p.m. But okay, what I was saying here. So yeah, staff is under pressure to sign up voluntarily. Technicians working on the alternative systems have been told to stop in their tracks. When letters go out saying, sign this or we'll call your chief executive, it doesn't build goodwill, says analytics official. It creates compliance, not commitment. Palantir boasts contracts across British public services with its technology already embedded in the police and military. Last month, the two anonymous Ministry of Defense officials told journalists at the Nerve that Palantir's deepening knowledge of the British state poses a national security threat to the UK. 123 out of 205 NHS hospitals trusts have already adopted Palantir's data system. So yeah, just one step after the other. UK absolutely executing its plan to make military investment a part of its growth engine, and taking contracts from Palantir, or giving contracts to Palantir is just part and parcel of that. A little bit of good news, maybe. Let's see. I wanted to just quickly dive into Zach Polanski because he is doing a bang-up job. A lot of places in the UK are going towards the Greens, which is really good. I can say that Europe in 50 years will become Avrupa. UK will become... I don't know what that means. Can you explain what this means? I don't understand. But yeah, Green leader Zach Polanski will call for policies to end the affordability crisis tomorrow. And he is introducing this really interesting, promise, which is the introduction of a 10-to-1 pay ratio, where the highest paid employees earns no more than 10 times the lowest paid, which I think nowadays it's like 260 or something to 1. So nowadays the gap is really big. Imagine 10-to-1. I would love to make 10-to-1 of what my boss is making, because that motherfucker is going home with way too much money, let me tell you. And besides that, introducing free school meals for all primary and secondary pupils. Amazing, amazing. Kids need food to learn. Kids need food because sometimes maybe at home things are difficult. So kids need food to flourish. It's just common sense. Universal energy bill support for households and stronger rent controls. Hell yeah. Customs union with the EU to cut business costs. Awesome. Oh yeah, here it is. Like the 10-to-1 pay ratio, I'm fine with as a policy. However, it couldn't be done overnight. Of course not. Europe will become homosexuals and drug free. Homosexualist and drug free. Islam comes and colonizes all of liberal countries besides Eastern Europe. So what I'm curious about, because I thought that that's what you meant, but I just wanted to make sure. What I'm curious about is, are you actually a person from Asia, or are you like just like an American dude cosplaying as someone from Asia? You know, that's what I'm curious about. Because if you're actually from Asia and okay, fine, cool. I can tell you right now, no, dude. Like, if you're from Asia, you have probably been colonized by, I don't know, the UK. Statistically, you've probably been colonized by the UK. How, like, what do you, like, that was actual colonizing, right? And they made things hell for the people that lived there. Your country won against UK? My man. Let's go, dude. Shout out to your country. But even though, you know, they won, like the UK probably wasn't going to make things amazing. And that was colonizing by, you know, people with a lot of money, people that wanted to use your country and wanted to use your people to both have cheap labor and to sell you back the things that you make to make more money off of you. Now, what we're seeing with literally normal ass migration to Western countries is like, you know, Western countries bomb other places, they destroy other places, and then people, some people, not all, some people are like, you know what? I would still like to have a good life. I would still like to try to make some money so that my family can survive and so that we can have a decent life. And they go work somewhere else. Statistically, immigrants are more likely to be better at education and are less likely to be criminals than the native population. That's just a statistic truth. And so the cherry-picked examples that migrants are violent or criminal, it's just not based in reality. So you're from Asia, right? Your country won against the UK. Like, I feel like you should be a little bit more proud of like what a country like yours has accomplished and know that, you know, people don't just like invade other places unless they're like doing it for nefarious reasons. Like the people that are migrating are just trying to improve their lives. And it's not even, you know, what are we talking about here? United Cake already has a Muslim people in its government. Fish rods from its egg. Man, I'm not gonna lie. The UK has other things to worry about than what you're describing right now. The UK, the people in the UK that are ruining the UK are Keir Starmer. Okay? They're all of these people that let the United States use their military bases in order to go bomb Iran. Okay? That's who's really ruining the UK. An average migrant, or all of the migrants together, are doing more for the UK than they can ever take out of it. Across the board, this is true in America, this is true in Portugal, this is true in other countries as well. Migrants always pay more into social services than they're able to take out of it. Most countries, their social safety nets are not that strong, okay? And the only reason they're able to stay where they are, I mean, look at America. America fucking sucks if you're trying to get healthcare. The only reason why it even remotely works is because of all the migrants that have to pay into these social safety nets, but that can't make use of it, you know? And meanwhile, Donald Trump is sending another couple billion to Israel, is, you know, using all of these fucking weapons to bomb Iran. I would say that those are the, you know, the types of people actually ruining the country. And, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they're Muslim or white or whatever. It happens to be a white guy. So, you know, I would say I would know who to be a little bit more scared of, you know? the statistics about good migrants doesn't work with Muslim people. Man, why do you hate Muslims? I feel like you should know that if, you know, people in America see your name, they will think you're Muslim, okay? Like, I don't really care if someone is Muslim or not. Like, it's just a person, right? It's just a normal ass dude or normal ass woman. It's fine. Like, why are you so set on perpetuating shit that you're like, you know, like, it doesn't matter to an uneducated person. They don't care if someone is a Muslim, if someone is just Arab, if someone, you know, is Muslim culturally but not religiously. People will just be like, oh, that person is black, or that person is queer, or that person is this, therefore they're bad. Many Muslims are completely peaceful. You know, I would say Christians on average are probably more, you know, war hungry than Muslims are. Like, yeah, every religion has like a what do you call it? Like an extremist an extremist groups. But, you know, it's nonsensical to blame things on Muslims when it's literal white, often Christians, doing the violence. I mean, look at what's happening in Palestine. You know, we are seeing white nationalists, whether that be evangelicals or whether that be Zionists, killing Palestinians not because they're maybe Palestinians, although, of course, but because they just want to get rid of whoever's on that land. I know UK has to deal with football fans breaking everything from their team loose, not about Muslims. Yeah, that's also true. You know, again, more likely than not, native people are going to be the criminals, not immigrants, because immigrants have a lot more to lose, you know. You're not going to risk your life, risk your family's life to try and get to a better place so you can just live a normal fucking life to then do some dumbass crime. Unless there's like you have severe mental health issues or something else happened. But even then, that is an outlier. That is a statistical anomaly. Statistically, like I said, migrants are much less likely to do crime than the native population. But yeah, also worth noting that in the 60s, the pay ratio between the lowest earner and the highest earner was 30-1. So imagine, and that was not even that bad, right? Right now, it's about, okay, I was saying 200, but it's about 124-1. So that's a big gap. That is a really big gap. And it would be good if we start to make policies that bridge that gap, that make inequality smaller, and that make people less hurting. Educated people care about other people's religion. It's a big part of human mindset and morals. Most Islamic countries are rural, caveman morals, economics, education, etc. Christians, we need to see what kind of Christianity modern, that American Protestantism doesn't differ much from Islam. So you see, I mean, I think already what you're saying, it's like, it doesn't make sense, bro. What I'm trying to tell you is that, like, religion, it's just like, I feel like people that are religious kind of are the same as like people that really like certain K-pop groups or certain, you know, shows. And it's just like, you just really like something, and that's fine, man. Just enjoy it. And as soon as you start to get weird about it, you know, you're already an outlier. But focusing on like these like cultural things completely ignores the bottom line. And the bottom line is that it doesn't matter what religion you are. It matters if you are a poor person or if you are a person that has a lot of money, because people with a lot of money make a lot of decisions about everyone else. And so most of us on this earth are, in comparison to the wealthy, we are poor people. Even if you're like lower middle class, in comparison to the billionaires, you are still someone that doesn't really have that much, right? And so it makes more sense to analyze things that way, because at the end of the day, money rules the world. And religion, you know, it's a good tool to kind of enact your wealthy people ideas, but it's not like the thing that is actually controlling how things operate. But yeah, I think that is actually it for me today. It's 8 for me, for my Portuguese time. It's 8 p.m. and that's gonna be it. But hey, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, okay? Barojom, Chatter. I appreciate you coming in though, because I think this is one of those things that I feel like if we get down to it, we probably agree about a lot of stuff. But I think that there's a lot of stuff clouding how we can move forward, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm sure that you probably also just want to have a good life. You want to have a house, a family, or you want your family to be good. I think most people want that. People just want to have community. But, you know, I think, and for the most part, we probably disagree with what Israel is doing in Palestine. But, you know, I think it's good to kind of get on one page about who is actually causing the suffering and who is the one that is suffering. And the one that is causing the suffering are the wealthy leaders that keep things in this way and keep us thinking that religion is like this bigger thing that it is. Religion is not something that humans like as a hobby. It's a core of human mindset that usually starts controlling every aspect of every life. People can also make religion from K-pops. That's kind of idolatry. Yeah, I mean, okay, everything is mental illness. Religion is mental illness. K-pop is mental illness. I don't care. I don't care if you're a religious person. I don't care if you're a K-pop stan. You should still get health care. You should still have access to affordable housing. That's all I'm trying to say, you know? It shouldn't matter. Like, people are less likely to do violent crime if they have their basic needs met. Crime, for the most part, is a consequence of poverty. So if people aren't forced into poverty, people wouldn't really be doing crimes in the first place. That's what I'm trying to get to. I want that Palestine's government be removed and Israel stop Palestine. No Jew Israel and no Palestine. I mean, I look at it a little bit more in the sense of like South Africa, right? Like, you know, the important part is that the apartheid is abolished. And I'm not in favor of 2 states. I'm in favor of 1 state, no apartheid, equal rights for everyone. Just like in South Africa. That's my goal. And the white South Africans, the Boeren, I see them very similar, although what like Zionists and Jewish Israelis are doing is on a whole other level, right? But that's, again, like, this doesn't mean that Jewish people are like that. It just means that Zionism creates this mythical idea of like supremacist, of Jewish supremacist ideology that it packages as Zionism. But yeah, that's I guess we can, as I said, I'm gonna cut it off right here today, but I will be back next Saturday and next Wednesday, of course, because I always stream on Wednesdays and Saturdays. I stream some fun stuff. I stream politics, so, you know, check back in if you want to. Jewish ideology is almost like the Nazis. It's not. It's just not. What you're saying right now is anti-Semitic. Jewish people, it's just a social group. It's not Nazism. Zionism indeed is a genocidal, Nazi-like ideology. That I agree with. But Jewish people are separate from that. And confusing the two actually makes you on the same side as Israel. So if you don't want to be on the same side as Israel, you shouldn't confuse Jewish people with Zionism. And I think you should be very clear when you separate those two. I'm not anti-Semitic. I don't like Judaism, not Semitic identity. Okay, so now you're going to play word games. Just be straight up. That's what I'm trying to say. Just be straight up. We need people to be clear about this because we need to win against Israel. So we can't, you know, run circles around these things. We need to be very clear about it. You know what I mean? But anyway, like I said, that's going to be it for me today. I'll be back Saturday for a bit longer stream. Also do some gaming at the end. So join if you want. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, everywhere else. Thank you so much for joining, chatter, and everyone else who came. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for supporting me. And we'll be back for more next time. Peace.